So after much delay, just wanted to do another episode of the Zombies Eliminations podcast, which is, for those just joining, is the podcast where I talk about whatever I feel like talking about, while at the same time, mostly including like literature, current events, my personal life, things like that. While at the same time, I'm gonna go ahead and play the Call of Duty games, of course, with the zombies modes, and eliminate those zombies, while at the same time keeping a complete track of all the zombie eliminations or kills that I get. And the ultimate goal is 1 million, which is a lofty goal, but we are right now 3.95% of the way to 1 million zombie eliminations, and this is all documented on the YouTube channel. All the Stars Are Dead. The videos are unlisted in a playlist on the channel, showing all the the kills and the eliminations. I currently have 39,496 eliminations. Definitely a good achievement to have. Trying to. I feel like part of me wants to learn the meta of the game, as far as like the being a better player, as far as like getting to higher rounds, like that are like world record kind of territory is what I'm trying to do. In addition to this, I've also been working on cryptocurrency, specifically this cryptocurrency known as Chia coins, which of course, if you've been listening to the previous episodes, that's a currency that's farmed exclusively with hard drives. So right now I have 865 plots plotted, which is about 87 or so terabytes, I would say, of space, which is quite a lot of space for any like average kind of person. Like anyone would have a hard time, filling that amount of hard drive space if they're just using it for personal use outside of like a data center, really. But the idea is, like, with the hard drive farming, it's similar to kind of like Bitcoin, except for instead of like having your computer solve a complicated math problem, it like every so often, in order to save the energy, a better way for doing this is like you store all these plot files on hard drives, which have an astronomically large amount of number sets saved on them, and then every so often the whole program checks for a certain number or code every so often, and the person who has the hard drive with the closest code wins a block, and when the block is won, you get like a payout with the cryptocurrency. And that typically only happens like one to two times a month, unless of course you're gonna mine with a pool. Which, if you mine with a pool, the pool just gives you a certain percentage of earnings every month, instead of just only paying you out for when you hit a block. Because when you mine with a pool, all the blocks that are won go to the pool and then get distributed amongst all the owners of the the hard drives, like depending on how many hard drives you have. So it's like predictable rewards versus like I might not get something or might get something, like leaving it up to luck, basically, kind of like a lottery kind of thing. Also, I've been reading books. So I've completed only one book, which is Animal Farm, which is like this whole metaphor that George Orwell wrote about. These basically like his distaste for the Leninist Bolshevik revolution that happened in Russia. The thing is, George Orwell was actually a socialist himself, but what he said was that he disliked the way that it was, the angle that was taken there as far as the leaders, and how it got quote unquote usurped by bad communists, even though, like, in my opinion, like, communism is just not something that works at all. Pretty much, it's kind of like a system of government that doesn't take into account that in order to free people from alleged oppression, it has to institute oppression that is worse, and levels of control that are much worse than the original problem they were facing, which is typically what happens in those kind of countries whenever a communist regime takes over. But that's neither here nor there. It's very interesting to see like the characters be animals. It's kind of like a cartoon kind of level thing, and what was the name of the villain? Napoleon was a pig character who was like gonna take over the whole, you know, revolution, and, you know, skew it into that direction after they, you know, made the human character, I forget what his name was, leave the farm, and then they just took over, and they're like, oh, everyone gets free everything, and, you know, there won't be any more problems, and then the thing is, it ends up in a worse state than when it started out as, and that's what I would say about that. But then there was something I wanted to read, you know, a quote from Tolkien that I keep coming back to, so let me see if I can pull that up really quick. 1 second while I get this pulled up. Just trying to find this. It's like a quote from Faramir, the character in Lord of the Rings from the Two Towers, that he says that I keep coming back to this quote. It's a very, you know, powerful quote in my opinion. It says, like, I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only what they defend. And that quote was actually, in the Lord of the Rings movies, it was translated into like one of the Elvish languages, and they had like a choir sing that quote as part of the scene where Boromir is dead, basically is dying, and then you know, Aragorn's there and forgives him for what he did as the king of Gondor, is how that happened. And yeah, it's just a very powerful quote, because I think about it all the time, because it's like, what are weapons for? They're like things that cause destruction, but, you know, you're only supposed to love the good thing that is supposed to protect. So, like, force should only be used in a defensive, protecting manner, basically. And then another quote, and don't mind that's my baby playing with like a toy or something, but another quote that I wanted to read was from The Last and Eternal Fire, which is a book that I wrote. Randomly came up, when someone was reading my book, they randomly came across this quote, so I'm just going to read this really quick. The joy of finding love in the darkness of the room, the exhilaration of the moment when we touched. My purpose in this life is to get as close to the sunlight as possible. It is better to be you than to imitate someone else. It is better to drink from the empty bottle than it is to lose yourself in someone else's control. I will never be owned. Now here I am, free as the wind, greater than all sensations, bitter or sweet, somewhere in between, somewhere unable to see, somewhere across the oceans, in a small room dreaming. Infinitely more to write about each day. There are curtains that are drawn back, and through the window we see the sun piercing the trees. The truth and love, unbreakable, unmovable, always forever, piercing through the clouds of uncertainty. Where the world is unsure, love is certain. How can we ever know when we will escape from the shell we have found ourselves in by mistake, except by grasping onto love and never letting go of it, of taking love and holding it, of gripping the love tighter in the ocean of our own dreams. The music that surrounds us when we are alone together in our room, whispering quietly, dreaming softly, forever and always encapsulated in a moment where we believe we will never be happy. The days pass quickly, while students walk through the hallways and the homeless tread the streets of a city that will for not much longer exist. If you can hear my voice, sing the anthems of the words I am regurgitating. And that was just a section from The Last and Eternal Fire, which is a, you know, book that is primarily one poem. It has other poems in it, but like the single poem that's there is like a book length kind of poem thing. And I'm also, you know, writing the Dominion God of this World book, which is the, I'm losing track, 6th book in the Harmony and Leafy series about these characters from US and South Africa. You know, you have Leafy, you know, visual artist character who is recently married to Harmony, and they're trying to be together, and because a lot of the things the government is doing, or, you know, they can't be together, and everything that's happening in the world with everything falling apart, authoritarian kind of regimes kind of, you know, keep the door shut on them ever seeing each other again. So heavily inspired by, you know, what was happening during the COVID pandemic, how they just shut all these borders down for pretty much no reason, in my opinion. that's happening. I also got a full copy of the Mahabharata, which I'm gonna read, which is the epic poem from the Indian culture, about like this history of these warring kind of houses. All these supernatural things happen in the book. It's 1.9 million words. So that was very interesting when I got that. It's one single poem, longest poem ever written apparently, except for perhaps the Epic of Gashar, which is 22 million words. Yeah, and on top of that, I've been other thing I want to mention, doing continually walking that I've been doing every so often. At work when I get a lunch break, I do take a short walk, so that's been a good thing to think about that I've been doing. And then I really think, as far as writing is concerned, the key to being a prolific writer and, planning any kind of project is, of course, it's perseverance. But you have to start with the general concepts when planning and move to the specific. You can't start with the specific and really move to the general, because you gotta, start broad and specific. And then have some books planned, including American Drifter 1967, which is a bunch of characters trying to save this victim of human trafficking. It's a prequel to American Poet Elegy for the Light, of course set in 1967 with, American Poet Elegy for the Light was more like kind of Green Day vibe themes as far as the musicality is concerned. This is more like a kind of like, for lack of a better word, Beatles kind of vibe, with the kind of music that is like implied to be like the background music as like the musical of because the book is kind of like a musical, I would say. So that's kind of how that works. And then, of course, Dominion Godless World is what I mentioned earlier. I'm working on, I have like 45,000 words written of the Banner of the Broken Cross in the Storm of the Worlds Part 1 out of 180,000. I've already previously finished Baptism of Apathy 2, which is subtitled as She Surrenders to Silent Seas. But that needs a lot of editing to be done, because obviously that was written in 2019, needs to be revised and all that jazz, And then The Young Heart's Engraving, which is about the Ukraine-Russia war. That's my thoughts on that. And then finally, the American Poet 2, Plight of the Revenant Nation, which is a sequel to American Poet Elegy for the Light. So you have that prequel, American Drifter 1967. You have the one that was already written, American Poet Elegy for the Light. Then you have American Poet 2, Plight of the Revenant Nation. So it's very interesting stuff I'm working on. I feel like I just don't have enough time to work on all the projects that I have planned, but hopefully, this will be done soon. But that's really all I had for now. I'm pretty sure, if there's anything else, I'll definitely, come up with a new podcast ASAP. But that's just my thoughts on things in general. And everyone, just wanted to say thanks for tuning in. The spreadsheet in the description of the podcast, as well as the description of the YouTube videos, will list the progress. Again, if you want to see more details about what I'm doing, I post mostly everything to my YouTube channel, All the Stars Are Dead. But that's all I had for now. See you all, guys. Have a good one.